As we celebrate the 50th anniversary of Earth Day this week, we are seeing some hopeful signs for the environment. Now, due to the COVID pandemic, industry is pretty much shut down everywhere. Hardly any cars are on the road. Pollution, it is being drastically reduced. Let's bring in now our guest to discuss, Chip Comins. He's chairman and CEO of the American Renewable Energy Institute. You know, Chip, every time we talk about the environment, usually the data I'll put in front of the audience will just show that every metric pointing in the wrong direction. And while that's certainly true, if the pandemic's done anything, it shows that if we actually mitigate our behavior and our consumption, there's a cause and effect. And in the pictures I just showed our audience, in this case, a good one in terms of air pollution. We showed the lagoons in Venice, all of a sudden they're blue. Is this an opportunity to maybe get people to look a little differently, that it's not a lost cause?
Absolutely, Richard. It's, I think, a teachable moment for our society and actually, quite frankly, the whole world. You know, the COVID virus has literally blown us apart and 6 feet apart. And we're all social distancing and we're self-isolating and quarantine. And that's, you know, forced our country and, in fact, I believe the whole world into take a global timeout. And while we've had that timeout, people are noticing that the skies are clearing in New York City and Beijing and in Calcutta and Mexico City, and the birds are singing a little in a happy tune. So I think that we can use this as a pivotal moment to emerge from this lockdown and then come out of it and immediately move into a new low-carbon world. That's the opportunity before us today.
Will it require sacrifice? And I ask that, Chip, because one of the things we've talked about throughout this pandemic is, unlike prior events in modern world history or American history, World War II being an example, and certainly in the Great Depression, government called on people to sacrifice something for the greater good. Without having to go too deep here, the short answer is this administration's done the opposite of that. In fact, they pushed back against both science and medicine. If the government doesn't incentivize, whether it be business or preach a common message to the American public, can really people go around the government to do it, or don't they need whatever the sitting administration to be fully behind it?
You know, it's unfortunate that this administration has been has such a bad track record with the environment. Actually, probably the worst administration in the history of our country. You know, let's remember that yesterday was Earth Day, the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. And in fact, the Earth Day was created at the same time as Richard M. Nixon implemented the Clean Air and Water Act. He created the Environmental Protection Agency. And that's because, you know, Republicans actually took conservation seriously 50 years ago. They knew they were interested in conservation. Conservatives conserved, and therefore we had an extraordinary reduction in pollution in the 70s, and in the 80s it got even better. We put catalytic converters on our automobiles. We put pollution controls on our smokestacks and reduced our carbon. Now, I think this is an opportunity for the president and his cabinet to seriously pivot and begin to really put the right kinds of legislation and policy in effect that are going to allow us to make this transition into a low-carbon economy that will add tens of thousands, if not millions, of new jobs to the economy, put our nation back to work, fixing the problem. I'd like to talk about trees for a moment. You know, trees are nature's perfect device to take CO2 out of the atmosphere and produce oxygen. And even though they only produce 1 out of 3 breaths, most of the oxygen, 2 out of 3 breaths, come from the ocean. Let's not forget that. But trees play such an important role. And we have a 2 trillion tree campaign at AREI that we're promoting. But there are many others in the United States that are promoting a 1 trillion tree planting campaign. Think of the jobs that would create. We could have an environmental Peace Corps that would be so beneficial to our economy.
And by the way, for people who think this is just some concept, we've done it before. I mean, if people remember, when we had the Dust Bowl in this country, FDR put a lot of people to work, but also totally changed the landscape of this country by planting all those trees in the middle of America, right? And obviously it had a huge impact on not just the Oklahomas of the world here, but it also got a lot of people back to work in probably facing the same kind of fiscal crisis we're looking at now. Tell everybody real quickly, if you can, about EarthX 2020. Obviously it's going to be different this year. It's going to be virtual, but tell folks what you're hoping to accomplish.
You know, I work with the founder, Trammell Crow, very closely. He serves on the board of AREI, and I'm a senior advisor and producer for him at EarthX. What we're doing, my team, we're producing 3 conferences, cities, resilient cities, which is on right now. If you go to earthx.org, it's free, and you can watch the proceedings. So we have some extraordinary people from the cities, mayors and governors and so forth. We also, tomorrow, we'll begin EarthX Renewables, where we're having a dynamic conversation that will feature the Drawdown. You've heard of the book, The Drawdown. We have a presentation from Trad Fleischman. I'll be moderating a panel with ASU on innovation and this exact conversation of how do we transition to a low-carbon economy, and that will be followed by EarthX's direct air capture panel with Global Thermostat, Peter Eisenberger, Edgar Bronfman, Graciela Chiltzinski, as well as Vijay Swarup from Exxon. So we're bringing Exxon to the table on that one. That's an extraordinary panel that will go off at 3:30 Eastern time. It's all free. You can get there at earthx.org and look at the conference links. And that's actually followed by EarthX Women. We're so proud of the women that are coming to the table, and you can see that also on the website, but it'll feature folks like the former president of Ireland, Mary Robinson, as well as Shie, who is our 18-year-old youth leader, the American Greta. Additionally, Jane Fonda will be there with them. So it's quite an extraordinary lineup of dynamic women that will be talking about these issues. And I just want to finish by saying that we're so proud of EarthX Film and what they've been able to offer the public. You can see all of our films that Michael Caine, the president and co-founder of EarthX Film, along with, again, Trammell Crow, has produced an extraordinary offering to the public about solution. We're very solution-oriented. Let's really acknowledge that we like to talk maybe 10% problem, 90% solution. It's very important to understand the problem, but it's even more important to take our time and energy towards solving it.
Well, Chip, obviously we're at an important time in many ways, but it's good to know that some folks here are taking this as an opportunity to tell people hope is not lost. We can still do something about our future. Chip Comins, I appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Richard.
All right, everyone. Coming up next, in just a few hours, we're going to finally have some sports to watch. Yes, I know it's not games, but still, we'll take it. The NFL draft kicks off at 8 o'clock, but this year, it will be very different from any draft before, as headquarters will be in a basement in Westchester County, New York. After the break, we'll show you how it'll all work.